Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show that talks about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection with that which is bigger than us, with the divine, with the magical mystery, with the journey that we're here to take, in the hopes that we can inspire one another to keep going on our own individual journeys of discovery. And, I like the journey. I'm Carrie Hummingbird. I love these stories. I love hearing people's thoughts about what it is we're here to do. And I love having conversation about it. And I love to guide people on that journey as well and help them out on those first few steps on that journey of personal discovery of why it is you came here. And today is really special for me because I'm here with HeatherAsh Amara, who is one of my first teachers to get me on my path of discovery. Welcome, HeatherAsh.
Thanks so much, Carrie. So good to be back with you.
I'm so glad you're here again. This is so awesome. So HeatherAsh Amara is the best-selling author of Warrior Goddess Training and the Warrior Goddess Wisdom Series, Awaken Your Inner Fire, the Little Book of Freedom, and her forthcoming book with St. Martin's Press, The Warrior Heart Practice, which will be released in January 2020. The heart of Heather Ash's teachings comes from her long Toltec apprenticeship and teaching partnership with Don Miguel Ruiz, who is the author of the Four Agreements. And you guys always hear me telling you to read that book because, oh my gosh, what an awakening. And after studying with Ruiz in 2001, Heather Ash founded TOSI, the Toltec Center of Creative Intent, which was a non-denominational religious organization based in the wisdom of the Toltec and the Four Agreements. And that's where I met Heather Ash, actually at a fire walk, which I also love people. You love it! And if you haven't done one, you should really do one because they're so amazing. You face all your fears and you don't come out the same person at the other side. It's amazing. You come out better. So today we were talking about, there's so many ways we could take this conversation, and I was just feeling into what is it that a lot of women struggle with today. And I can speak very transparently for myself. A big part of my journey has been really knowing what my journey is about and really falling in love with it, falling in love with the journey that Carrie Hummingbird was meant to take, and getting really rooted and strong in that so that I can be in a space of celebrating other people's accomplishments, other women in particular, rather than feeling that nasty feeling that a lot of us feel, that competition feeling and that comparison feeling and that feeling like there's not enough space for everybody and only some people are going to get, seen or noticed and or whatever it is that we think we're getting that other people are having. And this has come up for me a lot as a coach because as I look out on social media being the prime way that we compare ourselves with other people, and a lot of coaches of spirituality will kind of show these really beautiful pictures or really serene or, these amazing lives they're living. And you look at that and you go, well, my life's not exactly like that, so maybe I'm not doing it right or, or maybe they're lying and all the thoughts that go through your head when you look at something like that. And let's just talk about this for a minute, just this idea of how do we as women stop competing with one another, which is really, I feel ingrained in us through centuries of making us war against each other rather than lift each other up. Because we used to be the fabric of the community originally. Women used to support one another and lift each other up as well as the community. So how do we get back to that? What are your thoughts on that, Heather Ash?
Yeah, it's such a huge thing for so many of us. And what I found is that we have to just keep in mind that we're part of a larger dream right now that's based in scarcity. And there's the messages we get over and over again is there's not enough resources, there's not enough love, there's not enough attention. And because of that, we start to feel like we have to compete. If you have a scarcity of resources, that means you have to try and get the resources first. Whereas really, love, affection, attention is all incredibly abundant, especially if you start generating it yourself. And so when we really realize that we don't have to compete, but that we just need to really step into who we are, and like you said so beautifully, just love the journey that we're on, then everything starts to transform. So I always remind women first that it's not you personally. You're part of a system that's based in scarcity. And all of us have taken that on, some at a really, really deep level. So there's a lot to unwind for each of us individually, but we're really unwinding a collective crisis, I think it is, where we go against ourselves, abandon ourselves in so many different ways.
Yeah, and it's generational, you know, so it gets
Mhm.
passed down through the generations. And there's a, you know, a lot of women that I serve, because I think we serve people who they have, their journey looks a little bit like ours, like they're going through some similar steps to the ones that we had. And some of my journey has been around my relationship with my mom, you know, which has been off and on and hot and cold, and, you know, where I felt kind of like we're sisters, you know, rather than kind of like competing for the attention of my dad, you know, rather than like really that warm mother-daughter thing that I've seen out there in the world. So I think a lot of women are experiencing this generational thing. It's pretty challenging. What are some of your thoughts on how we can unwind that?
Yeah, it is really challenging. And the first piece is always going to be around just becoming aware of the places that we're comparing and competing. And I always just invite people to just notice how it feels. So to just let it set in your body, and just, you don't have to do this for a long time, but just to go, okay, where am I feeling this in my body? Where do I feel that competition? Where do I feel that sense of fear? Where am I using her against myself? And to recognize that as women, one of the things we've been really, I've seen one of the biggest issues that a lot of us have is that we're using everything against ourselves. So it's not just other women. It's, you know, when I first wrote Warrior Goddess training, about, I don't know, 6 months to a year afterwards, I heard my own inner voice saying, well, if you were a good warrior goddess, da 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 da. And I was like, wait a minute, I wrote the book. You can't use the book against me. We're so habituated to use everything against ourselves. And so it's not just that we only use women against ourselves, we actually use everything against ourselves. And so when you become aware of that and start to pay attention, the moment that voice came up, you know, if you were a good warrior goddess, I was able to go, stop. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Stop comparing the future to who you think I'm supposed to be in the future, or who you thought I was in the past, or to anybody else. And then just to come back into the present moment. So first thing, become aware, but don't then fixate it on the voice or yourself up because you have the voice. Just be like, oh, now I'm comparing myself. Now I'm criticizing. Now I'm thinking I should be, you know, more enlightened, or I'm thinking I should be more like I was when I was 20. And you'll start to see all the ways that you're abandoning yourself without even realizing it.
And so that journey is a pretty tough journey to face.
Mhm.
I call that sitting with discomfort because not that we want to sit there too long, but there's like a vibration to it, like you were talking about, and it can manifest in certain parts of our body, in our physical expression. Even like a lot of times, like if I'm feeling that, my throat will get tight, you know, or I'll start to have like a little cough or something. I think it's tied to being able to speak your truth too, being able to know your truth and speak it. Like your heart knows something and is trying to say it, but your mind is getting all busy and getting in the way.
Yeah, so true. And that place of learning to embrace discomfort. Just, so what that you're uncomfortable, be with it. The truth is you're uncomfortable anyway, but you're trying to pretend like you're not uncomfortable, right?
So
So
fucking
just
true.
be with the discomfort and notice what's happening in my body. What's my mind doing? What are all the different pieces of it, without judging yourself for it or feeling victimized. And that's the key, is learning how to witness. And that's just that is a huge practice, but it's a practice. So you can start by witnessing that you're judging yourself for judging yourself for judging, or witnessing that you're comparing yourself and then you're judging yourself because you shouldn't be comparing yourself because you know you're an individual light. You know, just watch what's happening. And after a while, I think when we really start watching our mind, you realize how silly it is, and that it's not telling you the truth, and that it's not actually helping. And that then allows you to start to transform it.
Yeah, and I think that's how you have that. You have this really beautiful energy around it that is acknowledging at the same time as not believing. And this is the same thing I've noticed with the shamans. Like They acknowledge that you're in pain, but they also don't believe it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're not dismissing it, they're acknowledging it, but they also don't believe it. And so it holds you in this space where you get the opportunity to question it.
Yeah, exactly. And it is, we can't bypass it. So it doesn't help to just go, well, I'm not feeling pain, or I'm really not comparing myself. I know I'm an individual, unique light. So the pretending or the bypassing doesn't help. And it also doesn't help to just mire yourself in, I'm suffering, it hurts, I'm the only one that's suffering, I'm the only one that's doing this. And so it's that balance of witnessing without believing yourself and knowing it can change.
Knowing it can change. Like, well, I found the change through witnessing it, and also energy medicine, you know, moving the energy of it, really realizing that it's a structure in your system that could actually, like a virus, just be taken right out of the computer. Like, it doesn't have to stay there once you know it. But the witnessing part, without going into story, now that's a tricky little space.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can witness it and make up a lot of stories about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And take us down rabbit holes.
Absolutely. And have all sorts of justifications and victimization. And yeah, the story can get very, we're really good storytellers, is the truth. So it is that place of like coming back. How I think about it is you come back to yourself. So if you find yourself comparing or being outside of who you think you're supposed to be, or against somebody else, social media or whatever, to first stop, take a breath, get really present. What's going on in my body? What's going on in my environment? So you bring yourself into this moment in relationship with you rather than what you think. And so that place of just breathing and being present with yourself is so healing. Just learning how to do that. But it takes time. It takes time. And from that, we start to witness, I think, automatically. When you come back into the present, then you can witness your mind doing whatever it's doing, but you're in the present witnessing it.
And there's a certain amount of going through the story that I found is necessary in order to clear the thing, even though eventually I know, like I recently this spring, I've been doing a lot of clearing with regards to my mom, because I knew the end destination I was going to get to was my mom is an angel in my life. And there's a big list of reasons why. And I was going to get to the end of that, but I knew I couldn't just jump to the end, because it wouldn't be authentic if I didn't go through the messy part of the blaming and the really witnessing, and you're just horrible, and you did this and you did that, and you act like this, and you know, all those projections and things I had to witness that all. And as a foundation of my brain and how my little child brain made agreements before I was really conscious of even that potential of making agreements, like choosing, like my brain just sort of made a lot of ideas and stuck them in there, and then started building on those ideas.
Yeah.
And so my relationship with my mom unfolded because of that, largely. And I think a lot of ancestral patterning that was just passed down. It's really hard to break ancestral patterns. I mean, I want to say it's easier now than it's ever been, but it's very sticky stuff, these generational patterns. Talk a little bit about your help with people to break these, become aware of what the ancestral patterns are in the first place, and like break them. Like, how do we change it? How do we change the collective dream?
Yeah, and then there's a way that it's about not taking it as personally. Is that what I find with a lot of women that I work with is that they have this belief that they're broken and that they're only ones that are broken in this specific way, or their stories are totally screwed up and it's their fault, or it's their mother's fault, or it's their, you know, great grand, like whatever it is, that it's, they're either judging themselves or they're feeling victimized by the world. And there's a way to take our stories really personally. This is my story. This is what created me. And that makes them hard to let go of. If we've totally identified with them, this is who I am, this is my experience. Versus if you can start to open and say, I'm part of a much larger dream that's dreaming in scarcity right now. And that a lot of the patterns that I personally have been passed down, not consciously. Like if I can realize my mother passed the pattern she had from her own wounding, from her mother's wounding, you know, or my father, that, you know, our parents don't set out to go, okay, I'm going to have a child and I'm going to see how badly I can screw them up. Right?
Right, they don't.
They don't. They're like, how do I give my child the best chance? And they may have done that very poorly. But why did they do it poorly? It's because they weren't trained properly. They're still suffering from their own wounding. And so when we really understand that, it gives us more compassion, I found, and also a different point of view of, I'm doing this healing work not because I'm broken or because there's something wrong with me. I'm doing this healing work because I'm being in service to myself and the collective to help us change this paradigm, to help all of us transform this dream that we're in, because we are in between paradigms right now. So
Yeah, we
we're
are.
letting go of so much baggage that it really needs to be cleared out. And we get the honor of doing that. We can see it as a burden, you know, I have to clean all this up, or we can see it as just an incredible gift that we are the ones that are going to stop the patterns from going forward.
And it's a really brave thing to take a look in the shadows. I got to say, like, I went into the shadow and just all the way in and looked around and felt everything and went, okay, here's the lay of the land in here on this one. And you can't get lost in there though. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you gotta, like you said, like hold that awareness. Like this is a bigger picture. I'm here for a purpose. I came in to do this. This is why I'm here. Don't get lost in the story. And one of the big messages of my book, in the second wave, is we're closing the book of fate now, so we can open the book of destiny. And the only one that can open the book of destiny is your soul. That's the only one that's big enough to open the book of destiny. But if you can't let go of the book of fate, if you can't let go of like who you thought you were up until now, and the story and the stories that you tell and the justifications that you have for why your life looks the way it looks, if you can't like deal with that part, you can't open the book of destiny. So it's like, you know, Spirit's always doing this with me on my journey, which I love, is like, here's a beautiful new blanket. If you would only hand me your stinky little blankie that you've been holding on since you were one, like, we just do a trade.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're like, no, it's
I like my stinky blankie. Like,
familiar.
it's unnerving to change though. It can be really, you know, I know that you do impact weekends where you have like 3-day weekends for your warrior goddess wisdom. And when people first go through that process, they'll do things like cry in front of other people, which they don't do. You know, they've been trained not to do that. That's one of the biggest things, right? Or they'll like let themselves be held by other people that they just met. These are super vulnerable things, and transformation can feel really uncomfortable as you're going through that part. That discovery that on the other side of all that fear of being vulnerable, there's love.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to be willing, like you're saying, to let go of the old story, to step into something new, to see what's possible. And it takes a lot of courage.
So what are some of the things that you're finding on your own? Because I know you've been at this a while. You're really building your own dream. Like you've been working with your own dream of life. You've been facilitating a collective container for a lot of women. I don't even know how many at this point, like thousands, hundreds of thousands, to help people to really step into a new collective dream. What are some of the things that you're bringing in to that dream?
Well, there's this beautiful, like, retraining all of us to come back into relationship within community. Because especially in America, we're really trained to be individuals, and that individual, you should be able to fight your way through and do what's right and succeed. And there's a lot of pushing and kind of forcing, what I think of as an excess of warrior energy that we're all working with right now. And so I really teach women, like my work right now is really helping women balance the qualities of warrior and goddess inside of them, learning to really name what is their mix. Some of us are much more goddessy, and that goddess energy for me is about creativity and openness and fluidity and receptivity. And the warrior energy is focus, clarity, commitment, 100%. And we can get out of balance either way. We can have too much warrior energy and be pushy and dogmatic and judgmental. We can have too little goddess energy. We can become really victimized and fearful of everything. And when we start to come into balance with those qualities inside of us, we start to let go of all the shells of who we're not. And that's so much of the work is really, it's not about figuring out who you are, I found. It's around letting everything go that you're not.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the great reveal. It's like taking all the clothes off, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
bam,
Yeah.
spirit of
That's,
death is my friend.
yeah.
I do all these meditations with the spirit of death, and I'm like, I just take it off. Like whatever I thought it was, I just release it. That or something even better is going to come into place, and just keep taking it off, whatever I thought. Because my idea is so small. This is actually one of the things I'm working on right now is surrender, like another level of surrender. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure how many levels of surrender there are. Maybe you've
Endless.
okay. Because I'm at another level of it now where it's sort of like, don't do anything unless you have a message to do it.
Mm.
And I'm right in the middle of my book launch, right? So I'm like, yeah, but I know from my left brain that book launch says you have to do this, 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 and this, and this, and make a big like penetration in the market from my warrior goddess, you know, my warrior as spirit, like do it and send it to everybody and really make sure they know and shake them and, you know, all that stuff. And my guide's like, no, we're moving to another level of surrender. We tried it your way. Why don't you see what happens, you know, if you let me lead? Oh, okay. We'll see what happens. It's challenging, that
Mm-hmm.
surrender piece.
It
And that
is.
is, to me, that seems like the goddess piece, like the surrendering part. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. It is really about that surrendering part and trusting that there's a larger force at work and that also there's larger lessons at work. I think the problem with getting caught up in warrior is that we start thinking this is the only way that we can do things. And the beauty of the goddess energy is that there's so many different ways and that it doesn't have to be hard. You know, sometimes we get caught in the, it has to be effort and hard and difficult in order for something to be successful. And what I'm really learning is that success isn't this thing out here. It's about how I'm feeling inside, what the journey is, how my experience is every moment. And I had a big let go with my, when the book that's coming out in January, I really feel like it's like the culmination of all of the work and all of the books and all of the writing. It's a really, really important book to me. And I had a choice between two publishers and I got really clearly guided, go with the less experienced publisher. And the moment I decided to pick that publisher, I knew I'd made a mistake. Like I had no doubt. I'm like, I just blew my career or whatever that is. I mean, the voices were amazing. Like you've just totally sabotaged yourself and you made the wrong choice. And what are you thinking? And every time I checked in with my intuition and with my guidance, it said, trust us. And I was like, what do you mean? Trust, like, and it was beautiful because it forced me to go through this whole process to realize the vision I think of what's supposed to happen with that book. I have no idea what's supposed to happen with that book. I'm just supposed to give it to the world. That's it. Period. And it forced me to let go of all my expectations, all my desires, all my preconceived ideas. And it was really beautiful to just finally just let go. And I ended up losing the contract. I mean, I had got out of that contract and went back to the original publisher that I should have, but it was all magic. But I know that happened because I surrendered.
Yeah, because you needed to go through that experience to surrender, to face the next level of inner voices inside of you. Because I feel like the more you walk along this path, the more sneaky it gets.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you're controlling things, but then telling yourself you're not controlling it.
It does. It's yeah.
More and
And
more
and it's such a balance of like really learning how to surrender and take action when action is called for. Like 100% go in and then let go of that outcome over and over and over again. Yeah.
It's so humbling.
It is.
So I had this experience. I did a meditation a week ago, and that's where I found out like who my guide has been this whole time, which, okay, I did get messages the whole way along, but I ignored them. I dismissed them. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Or I downplayed it, or I just was like, oh, well, that's just part of it. Well, I had this such clarity in this meditation that I was able to put all the, like, I saw all the dots connecting from all of these life's experiences. And one of the major dots was something that I studied with you, actually. That day that we went to the mall to find God, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, God's not at the mall. You're like, what will we find out? I'm like, okay. And my thing was, my dad had the cancer, the terminal, the really bad cancer that was aggressive, but it was in stasis. It wasn't doing anything, but I was really upset because he wouldn't do energy medicine, which I knew was the way to solve the problem. And he was very fixated on his Western medicine, you know, he's going to do it his way. And the major lesson out of that was, my dad said to me, oh, after the mall thing, I realized I was being very judgmental and that I was contributing to the problem. So I went to their house after and I apologized. And I just sat and listened. And my dad finally looked at me and he said, I noticed that you're listening and you're not telling. And I'm like, yeah. And he said, well, here's what I need from you. You're a really strong leader, but I need you to follow. And my guide showed me that in the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
He said, remember that moment? I
Yes.
was teaching you in that moment what you need now. I thought, wow.
Mm.
So I think so many of us women at this time, we've had to be very strong for ourselves. We've had to fend for ourselves. Latchkey children, I mean, dynamics in our families, all kinds of things. And we've had to really fend for ourselves and become strong. And now it's like we need to relax and let that higher guidance come in and support us and lead us. That part is so tricky though, because there's just like this pattern in our field. I don't know if you relate to this, but it's like, how can I really trust? How can I, if I let it all go and I say, okay, I'm going to follow, that you're going to treat me right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Or that it's going to work out, or that, yeah. And I think that we have to come to the place in our lives where we're willing, where we realize how much suffering we're causing ourselves by the pushing and the trying to figure out and the masks that we wear and the roles, that we realize we're willing to surrender anything in order to have peace.
Mm.
And you just get
Yeah.
willing, like it doesn't matter what it takes. I want peace inside my soul more than anything else. And that's what finally allows us to surrender. And doesn't mean we don't do it kicking and screaming. There's still places where we're like, but I really wanted that. It's like, let go.
Yeah. I really enjoyed in this meditation. I got so close to my soul. Like I got this so full, so much love, so beautiful. And I thought that's the only place I want to be.
Yeah.
You know, that moment where you're like, I just want to be more of that. Just, I don't, the rest of it, whatever.
Yes.
Just give me more of this. And yeah, I'm willing to surrender for that. If I'm going to have more of that, then I'll let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
true.
we have to experience something better. That's what that tells me. We have to experience something better. It's not just a leap of faith, because I feel like it needs to be an actual taste of something better, an experience of it that leads you to the next place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really true. And it may be decades before you realize that was the taste. And in order to get back to that, you have to start letting go and doing it in a different way. And it may be from a recent experience, but I think that's true that all of us, you can't yearn for something you haven't experienced before. So anybody that's on a seeking path or a healing path has had some experience where they connected with the divine, or they connected with their soul, or they connected with their essence, and realize that they need to change their habits and beliefs and stories, as we've been talking about, in order to step back into that right relationship with their spirit or with their soul. And but we hold on to our stories. They're familiar. They're like that familiar blanket. And there is that moment where you're in free fall when you first let go. Because I don't think spirit's like, okay, I'll give you this and then you can let go of that. Like you're saying, it's like, let go of that and then there'll be space for this, the grace to fill you. But in between the letting go and the grace, there's free fall, there's unknown, there's discomfort. And it's the willingness to hold yourself through it and love yourself through it. And know you're going to be okay no matter what. No matter what.
No matter what. That is so true. I feel that. So as we shift these patterns, I mean, I feel that it's really important for us to recognize that there is some free fall at the collective level too. And that's why it feels so uncomfortable right now, because we're in the middle of the transformation. It hasn't completed, and it could take a little while to complete. Maybe our lifetimes, maybe not. It could take a while for people to come around to a new way of being, or for however you want to look at it. I like to look at things like vibratory, like as there's more vibration on the planet. And Jennifer Hoff just contributed something to from the science perspective on how we emit the new frequencies that we embody, like just by being, because it comes out in photon light packages, like everywhere, like bam, 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 so you don't have to do anything, stuff show up. But you can do your personal work, of course, to surrender and let more energy in, more light. This could happen really quickly. And there might be some free fall collectively what's super uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so true. And I always check in. I've learned to check in when I feel disturbed or when things are up and just ask, okay, is this mine? Is this collective? Is this a combo? What's going on? And do the big picture, like check in with what's happening collectively to get that insight. And then to zoom back in, to come into my own body of like, all right, and what transition or what transformation am I in the middle of right now? And that can really help to have both viewpoints, both perspectives.
Yeah, I love that you do that. That's really a good piece of awareness to bring in. I'm gonna bring that in because I feel a lot of stuff and I'm like, I cannot be this messed up.
What's going on?
The heck? But it's because I'm designed this way. I don't know, something, whatever. I just have come to accept it. But it is that piece around, is this collective or is this actually mine? And usually at this point, it's mostly collective stuff and a little bit of my stuff. But I still have stuff. We're all going to have stuff to work on, I think, until the day we lose these bodies and then we get another one. So it's never ending. We're keep going. So that's why you were talking about community. So community holds us together kind of with a little more sanity if we're all talking the same language.
Yeah, absolutely. What I always say is if you have a challenging life situation, work situation, family situation, then you need more and more community. So I just think community is vital to transformation, especially for women. We need to sit in circles. We need to hear other women's stories. We need to work together towards our own freedom. And I really believe it's a collective journey, not an individual journey. It's both. Actually, I shouldn't say it's one or the other. It's individual and it's collective. And it goes much more quickly when we work with a group of people that are on the same path. And it's also fun. It becomes this really beautiful, sweet journey when you have people that are speaking the same language and doing the same work and have the same focus. There's a lot of joy then. And what I've seen is that when one person breaks through, then everybody breaks through. And that's a really good way to help, coming back to the competition, is to really realize that whatever person you're comparing yourself to, instead of using them against yourself, to just go, yay, there's a breakthrough happening, which means there's more opportunity for breakthrough for all of us. It's not taking anything away. It's actually carving a path so that it's easier. And I found that to be really helpful. It's just to celebrate, one, we're all really different. And, when I get into comparison, because I do every once in a while still be reading about somebody who I really, really admire and be super excited and turned on and curious and like have all these ideas. And then the next moment I'll be finding myself using her against myself. like, well, you should be more like her. And the moment I catch myself doing that now, I just stop, come back into the present, and I name then what I'm doing. Like I'll sometimes say it out loud of what I'm doing and what I admire about the person. So I'll start to say, here's what I admire about them and what I'm using against me, but what am I actually loving about what they're doing? And then to celebrate who they are and that they're being a light. Yay, how wonderful. And then the next thing I do is look at what's mine, celebrate me and what my expression is and what differentiates me. And I found that then takes it out of the comparison and takes it into this just joy of, oh my gosh, this incredible woman is doing this incredible thing. And here's the cool thing I'm doing right now. And everything becomes inspiration rather than comparison.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we admire in other people, we have already. It just might not be expressed as fully as we want it to be expressed, or it might be showing us like, hey, I'm going in a similar direction to that, and I get to see it. Like, I've often looked at you and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go kind of in that, sort of in that direction. I'm going to go over there somewhere, but in my own way, because I'm very, I'm me. And I got to do it my way. It's just,
yeah, absolutely.
I'm working with my soul on that too. But yeah, it's a very big journey. So, but that can actually be something like, I admire Oprah tremendously for all that she's accomplished. So she's one of my like big, like, oh my gosh, I love her. And I think about how she's been through and how she never gave up and how she just kept growing and expanding, and more actual authentic confidence within her. It just shines out. She knows herself. She stands in herself. She really speaks her truth. And I love that about her. And I realized at one point, I was like, wait a second. Well, I kind of stand in my truth and I speak, and I might not always get heard the way Oprah gets heard, but I do the same thing in my own way. And so I could acknowledge that the thing I'm admiring her, there's a flicker of it in me, and I can grow the flicker. So there's that, like, we can all inspire each other to grow that flame within us. You like to talk about flames a lot, like grow that flame within you to really expand that trait that you're finding so inspirational in someone else.
Yeah, exactly. It's a beautiful way to do it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, I know that you have a lot of things going on, and anything that you want to particularly point people toward in all your offerings for a starting place to get to know you and to get started in your Warrior Goddess community.
We have a couple really great places to hook in. We have a huge page called Warrior Goddess Women, which is a Facebook group where just magic happens. It's been really wonderful to watch that community grow. So that's a great place to plug in. I also have an online Warrior Goddess Boot Camp, which is kind of the first step for people, and a couple of different online courses that have different themes. So that's a great place to start in as well. And then I travel around and do workshops and appearances. So you can always see where I am live as I travel around the world.
And all of that is on your website, HeatherAshAmara.com?
Yeah, exactly. HeatherAshAmara.com or WarriorGoddess.com. So the Warrior Goddess site lists also all the different facilitators, all the different book clubs that are using Warrior Goddess training as the inspiration. So it's a fun place to go if you're looking for local community.
Yeah, it's a great spot to hook in with people who have been through the training and are doing a book club or some kind of teaching. Because this is the cool part about this community, is that it is all women, and every woman is unique in this community. And we're all looking to find our own power and presence, and within that framework of community, and to support each other and to practice the skills, which can be messy, but it, over time, it all sorts out, right?
Yeah, so true. So true.
Well, awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed having you on the show. Is there any parting thought or anything you want to lead with people for today?
Yeah, letting go, since we had that part of our theme. Letting go starts with the little things. So letting go of the coffee cup that you've kept for 10 years, even though the handle's broken and it's cracked, to be able to really lovingly, all right, sweetie, thank you so much for how you served me. Like, just little things like that actually build up when you learn how to let go of the tangible physical things. And that will allow you to open up to start letting go of your identity or your desire, your preference of how you think things should go, your opinions, all of it. So it's really beautiful way to nourish yourself by starting small and being with yourself as you learn how to release and let go.
Awesome. Great advice. Yeah. Clean those closets out physically. Start there. Awesome. Well, I'd like to give kisses to people on the way out, so you're welcome to join me in giving kisses. I know you have your own way of giving kisses. I'm going to do mine. You do you, I'll do me. Here come the kisses, everybody. Receive. Mwah. Kisses! And don't forget, if you really enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes or YouTube or any other place you found us. Like, comment, review, share, and we really appreciate you helping us spread the message about what we're up to. And have a great week. We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye, everybody.
Bye.